Okay, so this is part 2 of the transactions we're going to work through, and we're going to work through a couple of them this time and hopefully get through at least 3 of the transactions on this section of it, and maybe we'll get a quicker understanding about it. So the second entry then says September the 15th, granted credit to Mary Bergen for merchandise returned, $60 plus the sales tax of $420, credit memorandum $125. So from your experience or from your knowledge, you know that every memorandum is basically put in the general journal. So we're going to go ahead and again with the date, September 15th. And now we got to remember what's debit and credit here. When somebody returns merchandise to us, it's a sales, returns, and allowance. So it's going to be sales, return, and allowance. And then underneath that, we also have to return the sales tax. And then we're also going to decrease our accounts receivable. And the person that is returning this stuff to us, Mary Bergen. And so we have to fill that in as document number CM 125. And then we're going to be debited. How much did we have to return? Well, we had to return $60 of it. The government returned $4.20 of it for a total of $64.20. So now we have to post this. Now, if you go back and look at the rules, then it says rule number 1 says, does it fall under a general amount debit or credit accounts? Well, it actually does in this situation. And if you say, well, no, it doesn't, then you look at rule number 2 and it says, does it fall in the general journal? Well, it does. It's fallen in the general journal. So what we have to do is we have to go back and we have to post everything from the general journal. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and find in our general ledger our sales returns and allowance. So we're going to scroll down and find sales returns and allowance. And again, we're going to put the date, which is the 15th. And it comes from General Journal, page 16. And again, where do we find that? Well, we can go back and find General Journal. That's General Journal, page 16. And then we're gonna debit that amount for the $60 that we have to return. And we're going to add that to that equals this plus this. It's going to give us a new balance. We're going to take that 4130 and go back to the general journal. And we're going to write in there 4130. Now we do exactly the same thing with sales tax. So I go to the general ledger, find the sales tax up here. Okay, the date again is the 15th. Okay, general journal, so GJ16. We're going to debit that for the $4.20. And obviously that's going to subtract from it, so we're going to go equals this minus this. Gives us a new total. And we're going to take the 2140 back to the general journal. And now we're halfway there. So now we have to go back and find the accounts receivable in the general ledger. And we're going to credit that for 16.4. So scroll all the way up, find accounts receivable. Again, the date is the 15th. Where did we get that from? GJ16. We're going to credit it for the 64.20. Okay, and we're actually going to, that's going to decrease it, this minus this. Okay, and 1130 then goes in the general journal. Now, if you remember what we did is we created a slash through there. So I'm going to start this by putting 1130 and then slash. We're going to come back and post the other thing here in just a second. So Mary Bergen, then we have to go to the accounts receivable ledger and find Mary Bergen. Okay, and post it there as well on the 15th. GJ16. We're going to credit that for 64.20. And again, we're going to subtract that. So this minus that. It's going to give us a new total. We're going to put the 110 in there. So back to the general journal again. And we're going to put 110 on the other side of that. And so you'll notice that they're both posted. That 64.20 was both posted to not only accounts receivable, but Mary Bergen. So that's how we post from the general journal. Now, the third transaction then is set from September 19th, received cash from Harrison Evans for merchandise R302. So if we receive cash, you're going to go to the cash receipts journal. We're going to put the date September 19th. what is it, Harris Evans for merchandise. So they bought merchandise on account. So we're going to go here, 2158 even, and we received cash for that, 2158. And so we go back to the questions that we asked before. Is it under a general debit or credit? No, it's not. Is it in the general journal? No, it's not. Does it fall underneath the accounts receivable or accounts payable column? It does. The 2158 falls under accounts receivable. So we're going to take and post that just to Harris Evans. So where do I go? Well, I go to the accounts receivable ledger. I go find Harris Evans and I put the dates. The date is the 19th. Where did we find that information? Well, we found it in the cash receipts journal, right? Page 18. So let's go back here, cash receipts journal, page 18. So CR 18. And did we debit or credit that? We debited that for the 2158. So we're going to add those two together. I'm sorry, we credited for 2158. We didn't debit it for 2158. So that makes that account 0. Right, so if we had a debt balance, we credited it for 2158. And again, we can go back and check that again. We can take a look here at the cash receipts journal. And it says here we credited 2158. So that's right. We did it the right way there. Okay, 2158 we credited, so the balance is 0. So we take the 120 and go put the 120 back in the post reference. Now we also forgot to put the document number, didn't we? So we got to go back and find the document number. Over here is R302. So we got to put R302 in there. R302. Now, as far as cash, then, does it fall underneath any of the criteria that we follow? Is it general debit and credit? No. Is it the general journal? No. Is it fall underneath accounts receivable or accounts payable? No, it doesn't. So we're going to leave that number alone for right now, and we'll come back to it later on. All right, so let's do one more transaction, and then I'll stop and let you do a little reviewing. So it says here, September 21st, sold merchandise on account to Davis Sullivan for $1470.50, and there's the sales invoice number. So we're going to go to the sales journal, and we're going to write the date in there, September 21st, and it's Davis Sullivan. Okay, and the sales number is 354. And what was the total amount we received? $1470.50. And the sales credit was $1374.30. And the sales tax was $96.20. So there's our transaction. We put it in the journal. So let's go back to our definitions again. Okay, was it a general debit and credit amount? No, there's no general debit. Is it in the general journal? No, it's not. Is it fall, or does the numbers, a number, fall underneath the accounts receivable or accounts payable number, or accounts? Yes, it does. Our 1470.50 falls under accounts receivable. So we're going to go find Davis Sullivan under our accounts receivable ledger, and we're going to journalize that. So the date is the 19th. I'm sorry, the 21st. Okay, and where did we get that information from? Well, we got it from our sales journal. Sales journal, page 9, so S9. So we're right in there, S9. And did we debit or credit that? Well, what happened there is they paid off, we sold merchandise on account to Davis, so it's going to increase that. So we know that we're going to debit that number for $1470.50. We're going to add those two together. Gives us our total, $2,034.50. So we're going to take that 140. It goes back in there. And so that's how we journalize those three transactions. And I hope you're starting to get the feel about how this works out, because you can always go back and whenever you put a number in underneath there, does it fall underneath the general debit and credit columns? Is it in the general journal, or does it fall under accounts receivable or accounts payable columns? And if it does, that number corresponds with the account that's in there. So that's the second set of transactions, and we'll go on and do the third set here in a couple minutes.